Welcome back everybody. It seems like quite a lot of you enjoyed the last video with this PowerPoint format, the more long form video that I'm going for, so I've made another one for you. We're going to be talking about a fairly similar topic here today. We're going to be talking to my audience, a lot of people out there who are under 30, lost and struggling. This is a video for you guys, and again, hopefully by the end of this, we'll be able to change your life. It's a big claim, but let's try it. We're going to be talking about a really deep issue in today's world, and something which I think doesn't get enough attention, which is how many people at this age are having difficulty. We're going to start off though by diving into our first slide, where I'm going to mention that life under 30 is hard. Every age is hard. Every age has its unique struggles, but life under 30 is arguably one of the toughest periods, specifically the ages between, let's say, teenage, maybe 15, and 25. I'm 21, and I'm lucky enough to know people all across the age range, but people from, let's say, 16 to 25, everybody I know is struggling to some extent with some of the issues that we're about to speak about. It doesn't matter if they're male or female, on the younger end of that scale or the older end of it, whether they come from a well-off family or a poor one. Everybody is feeling this to some extent. So if you're in this boat, if you're struggling with what we're about to discuss, you're not alone. Everybody's feeling it. I'm feeling it to an extent. Everybody else is too. So I guess we might as well get into today's actual topic and talk about what this struggle is. And it really revolves around growing up and ultimately finding your place in the world. You come from childhood, which not always, but for most people is quite easy. You know, good decisions are made for you, decisions in your best interest are made for you, you don't have to do anything. Food is provided for free, so is shelter. And besides school, everything in life is quite fun. If you're lucky enough to be from a well-off family, you might have after-school clubs or holiday camps, and it can be, that's not the kind of thing that I had, but I would imagine it can be quite a nice experience. As we grow up into our teenage years, the dynamic starts to shift. When we come into being teenagers, a lot more is expected, right? We're starting to feel the judgment and responsibility. From our mid-teenage years, I'm going to say about 16, we begin to get a lot more opportunities and chances. However, what comes with that, or what can come with that, is a greater potential for error. So in the UK, for example, from 16, you can get a job, right? That's great, but in some families, maybe families where money is a bit tight, there might be an expectation to get a job rather than the option. And that's all well and good, it gives you some more money, but if you think about it, it's a big jump from being in school. Anyway, like I say, it can result in greater potential for error. For example, what do you want to do at college or university? We're told to decide that at 16 too, and I have to say, I was told to decide it at 16, I now wish I did a completely different degree, maybe even didn't do a degree at all. So we make these decisions that can influence the rest of our lives and have really large consequences for the rest of our lives. We begin to understand a lot more about the actual world. We get an understanding to some degree of money, relationships, and struggle in adult life. It's a fun period, but it's just the start of the overall challenge. Now we focus on the later years, right? Now we're coming into 18 to 25, and this is where things become a lot harder. If you're under this age, I don't make a video like this to scare you. It's not scary. I would say it's actually exciting. I'm more happy now at 21 than I might have been at 16, because I can do a lot more stuff, I get a lot more responsibility, I can do anything I want. So I'm not trying to scare you, but it is also true. The world expects better of you from this age, and so do you. You expect better from yourself. You want bigger and better for yourself. So again, you might ask questions like, why am I not in a relationship if all my friends are? Why do I still live at home with my parents at 25? Why have I not got a certain career by this stage? Right? These are all realistic questions that people ask themselves at this age. And you guys know this is true, as do I. So it becomes a lot harder from this point. It's not all bad, but for a lot of people, the answer as to why you haven't got these things is because you are unsure. This is where many young people need to understand a very crucial fact about life, right? The grown-ups are right, you don't have forever to decide what you want to do. However, at the same time, inaction can actually be less bad than making huge decisions, right? This is very important to discuss. We're always told that the worst thing you can do is nothing. Sometimes doing stuff can be even worse. Not always, but I gave one example, right? Imagine you're starting a family at 18, right? You might think it's what you want at that stage, but after 5 years, you may have realised it's financially heavy, the relationship's not working, it might not have been what you actually wanted. Now, you've got a lifelong responsibility at age, well, if we say it's 5 years later, 23, you've got a lifelong responsibility for something that you did at 18. So rushing into decisions can be worse than doing nothing at all. I'm not saying do nothing, but I think this is something which isn't discussed enough. It's always about, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Is that always true? We look at examples like this, and I have to question it. Anyway, the reality is that you shouldn't and don't need to know it all yet. The more info you can get on life, the better, but there's no genuine expectation for you to know everything at this stage. And I want to make one point clear now. I'm 21 years old, and I admit, right, I don't have all of the answers yet, but what I can say is this: the steps that I have taken and the steps that I'm going to talk about in this video are all things that I've implemented into my personal life over the past year. And whilst this last year has been one of the most challenging of my life, it's actually been one of the most fulfilling, one of the most rewarding, right? This past year I've travelled to places I couldn't have imagined, I've bought one of my dream cars, I've made progress at a rapid pace. There's only been one time in my life ever before where I've had more money in savings than I have now. And that was significantly more, but that's a different story. What I'm saying is it all is going to tie into my main point for today's video. And this kind of revolves around the fact that if you're under 25, your aim should not even be to figure it all out. I think this is why so many people begin feeling lost in the first place. They're trying to figure it all out, and an abundance of options makes it very hard to choose, right? A world of pressure and stress, funnily enough, makes it a bit more difficult too, and a world of options which could set you free actually ends up leaving you trapped. For example, we've got all of the options to make money, all of the jobs, all of the career progressions, anywhere in the world that you could live. But how many guys do you know that just do something because dad said so, right? I was talking to a guy in Manchester the other day, actually. I don't even know how I got chatting to him, but he was talking about the fact that he's doing a medical degree, and I'm like, okay, is that any good? And he's like, no, it's what my family want me to do. My dad is some sort of medical professional, and I'm being told that I need to be a doctor. But it's not what you want to do. So there's a lot of people out there who live this sort of path. They do it because parents said so, or maybe they get a job in X place because their uncle has one and they can get them into it, or all of these different things, right? This brings me on to a big point about success, because on the surface, good job at 18, 20, 25, massively successful. Focus now on the micro of it. What are we actually looking at? Well, success is a very subjective term, and I don't think that this is spoken about enough. Success is a very, very subjective term, both for men and women. We have these arbitrary measures of what success actually looks like, but we don't actually focus on how it affects us individually. So we know that both for men and women, young men and young women, success means different things, but there are still these arbitrary measures of what success looks like for both genders at this stage. I know people who financially are broke. They're broke, but they spend the money that they have traveling the world. I know people who are happy with their family, that maybe they've had a kid, they've got a wife or a girlfriend, and they're happy, right? And here's the thing, in my personal eyes, and I think in their eyes too, these people are massively successful. Society might not view them that way because they might not have money, or they may have gone down the wrong path, but if they're happy, who am I, you, or anybody else to say otherwise? I know people who are financially well off, and they're overweight and depressed, right? But they have a good job, so they're successful, right? And this is where we get into the discrepancy with this argument. No. Success is truly a subjective term. And what is successful to you in your life may be different to me. I always bring it back to a comment that I got once on the channel. And it kind of relates to this topic, right? And how we define our own success. Someone once told me that if I was truly successful, which I don't even think I claim to be, I would have a brand new car, and I disagree with that. To me, keeping my 90s car well maintained, looked after, and on the road is more of a success story. It's a rare car, it requires a lot of research to keep running well, you have to get parts from far flung places in the world. So it's a weird example, but it's an example of how someone else thinks that makes me a failure. I think it's a really good, successful, quirky feature. Different things for different people, but it's true, right? It's one example of it. Anyway, men and women both have struggles at young ages, and admittedly, they are different. Men are told that they need to be strong and traditionally masculine, as it is called, rich, outwardly successful, and a number of other things, whilst women often are told that they need to be slim, have a certain body shape, have a certain look, and a certain lifestyle. Maybe they should be getting married, maybe they should have a kid or a family. And look, for men and women, there are some valuable lessons here. For example, being strong as a man is probably not a bad thing. Having money as a man is probably not a bad thing. However, I want to highlight that oftentimes this becomes a men versus women argument, and the struggle is different for both genders, and the over-exaggeration to which social media places an emphasis on what we need to have, it can make things a lot more stressful, and that kind of ties into our next point. We're going to quickly, though, make a midway recap of some important info that we've covered up until this point. Number one, men and women both struggle at this age equally, in very different ways, but they do. Social media and societal pressure makes this 10 times worse. We're told that we should have it all figured out at such a young age, and in reality, that's pretty much impossible. And perhaps most crucially, the thing that we just spoke about, success is subjective. So, now that we've discussed that, we can move forwards with a new light, right? I cannot tell you the amount of time I've wasted in my teenage years thinking about how I should have made it, right? And it's kind of funny looking back, but at the same time it's not. Because I probably wasted and ruined some great opportunities that I could have had because I was too busy thinking about things that I didn't need to worry about at all. So now I still have the same drive for success as I had back then, but it doesn't weigh heavy on my life. What I mean by that is I get on with the work that I need to do. I'm still saving, I'm still investing, I'm still researching, I'm still growing. But when I'm out with friends, let's say, or if I'm invited out with friends, presuming I don't have too much work to do, I'm going, right? I'm going. And in my eyes, this makes me more successful. Spending time with friends, family, and whatever is so important, and a lot of this social media self-improvement tells us it isn't. At this stage in life, life should be like a horse with blinders on, right? It's an analogy, so hear me out with this one, but you should be focused like this on straight ahead. Imagine the periphery view being the next 50 years, right? We'll say you're 20, you're thinking until you're an old man, what are my grandkids going to be like, this, that. You should really be focusing on the next 5 years max. So at this stage, you can't look 50 years into the future. You should really only be looking 2 or 3, maybe 5. And this is a mistake that many people make, because why plan your 50s out when you're not happy with how you are in your 20s? I'm not saying don't be prepared. Maybe set up some investment account, savings account, all that sort of stuff. But if you're directionless now, how can you help yourself 30 years down the line? You don't know anything yet. So certainly don't worry about trying to help that guy, right? He's going to have it much more figured out than you do. You need to get in order at this stage in life. And if your life is in order now, you can think about the next stages in a bit. Right now, for a lot of you guys watching, the reason why you shouldn't be planning your 50s is because you don't have it figured out in your 20s. Do you know how stupid that sounds now we word it out, right? But this is what society tells us. They tell us to plan your 50s, get savings accounts. Maybe you should. But what I'm saying is this. Trying to plan your 50s out whilst you don't know what you're doing now is about as clever as trying to race a car with no engine in it. It doesn't make any sense. You haven't got the heart yet. I don't mean spiritually, but you haven't got it figured out. I think that kind of makes sense. Now, this is why you need to think about self-improvement, right? Because in concept, self-improvement is great. The message, though, can portray a polarizing and often demotivating view. And I need to put it brutally. If you right now are broke, single, living with mum, you don't really want to be worrying about Lamborghinis yet. And I know that's going to sound exceptionally harsh, but think about this in a point of reality, person to person. If you're broke, single, friendless, maybe lonely, living with mum, you don't need to be thinking about Lamborghinis just yet. There's too much to focus on now. And I'm not saying give the dream up, but let's look at the reality. You're not in that stage yet. That's okay, but it's realistic. And to kind of tie into that, most young people find themselves in a position somewhat similar to the one that I'm highlighting. I'm not saying it's all young people, but most young people, maybe most young men specifically, find themselves in these positions. Number one, they're broke. They've got less than 2,000 saved up. 2,000 is nothing. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm not saying that in any sort of a way. But £2,000 is not a lot of money. If you've got a car, it's nothing. If you've got a house, it's nothing. So a lot of young men are broke. A lot of young men are single. A lot of young men are lonely. Many are jobless. Many are either overweight or underweight. Either way, unhealthy. They have low social confidence and low real-world tangible skills. They're unhappy and they may be living with parents. So, again, focus on the point as to why you shouldn't worry about Lamborghinis. This should kind of speak to itself. Now that we've discussed that, not all of these points equate to failures or bad standings. Some of you guys don't have that much in savings because you're building a business and it's quite capital intensive. You might live at home because you're building a business. You might be single because you're not interested or you've just split up with somebody. I'm not saying that these are arbitrary measures, but they are important things to kind of consider when looking at a general position. So, when we talk about how most young men are unhappy, you got to ask the question, how much of their current position ties into their current mental state? Just a thought, but I think it might be quite a bit. This is actually really important when we start to think about the next steps. Now, if you're young and directionless, you don't need it all right yet. There are some basic measures that you can do to start fixing your life. So, what I'm saying here is nobody is expecting you to know what career you want, know where you want to live, know who you want to live with, what you want to do for the next 50 years. But even if you don't know any of those things, even if you're completely directionless, these points that I'm highlighting here will still help you. Getting in shape will allow you to be physically healthy. They'll allow you to have a lot of energy, maybe a lot more self-confidence. Get as much money as possible. That's going to present a world of opportunities. Investment chances, safety net, travel opportunities. You can move out of your house. You can start businesses. The list goes on. Money can never be a bad thing. And the same goes for social confidence. Get out there speaking to people. You're probably not going to be good at it at first if you're currently at a low standing in social confidence, but why not give it a try? Try get a network of good friends who you can rely on good times. People who motivate you, people who drive you forwards, people who want to help you, people who are on the same path as you. Try and get as many good friends as you can. And I know it sounds like a minor one, but try and get a good sense of style. Clothes maketh the man. And I know right now I'm not exactly dressed up, but I'm in my house. Try and get a good sense of style. I'm not saying don't wear. I'm not saying wear like suits, but try and get some style. Not all the time. You can wear a tracksuit or a fleece or a jogging bottoms whilst you're around the house or going to the gym, obviously. But I know guys who are going out like at events. You know what I mean? Like not events, but maybe nightclubs or bars or restaurants with their boys on a weekend, and they be dressed up in tracksuits. It doesn't look very mature. I'm not saying don't own a tracksuit if you want to, but what I'm saying is it's not formal wear. You need people to take you seriously, and to do that, you need to have a somewhat serious look about you. So all of these things, regardless of how much you know what you want in life, none of them can backfire. And these are some very, very basic measures that young people can start to implement to begin building direction. And this is how you begin to build your life, right? None of these points can backfire. Eventually, you will find out what you want in life anyway, with more experience. And again, oftentimes, the best decisions are educated ones. Spend this time building as much experience as you can. Spend this time learning as much as you can. For example, you need to be the sort of person, or you should try and be the sort of person, who can talk to people. Like, think about it right now. I'm talking to you guys on this camera, right? Look back at my oldest YouTube videos. I mean, I was making YouTube videos before this channel, but I wasn't making YouTube videos with my face in them. It's been a learning curve, but I feel like I can do it now like I'm talking to a normal person with a good degree of confidence. There's one example how it can never backfire, because now when I'm doing presentations at university or something, which I do, or maybe if you're doing presentations at work, you carry the same level of confidence with you, the same level of engagement, because I've learned how to engage people by making long-form YouTube videos. So it's an example of how a skill carries forwards. Again, having money to invest is the same. It can't be bad. Learning about financial education can't be bad. Getting a good sense of style can't be bad. And so on. The ability to speak well, as I just discussed, all of these points can never be bad. Another thing is that success is a compounding feature. At the beginning, it's crushingly hard to become successful. However, as you advance, you'll be surprised at how easy it becomes. Eventually, you'll be easily able to attract people, attract things, attract money, and attract opportunities. And this is a true fact. People see you making moves, people see that you're coming up in the world, and you have a certain aura around you when you're genuinely making moves. And it's funny how the doors start to knock themselves down, how they start to open themselves, right? The more you start to focus on the 3 or 4 principles that we spoke about, getting in shape, getting money, so on and so forth, these things start to open up themselves. Because people start to understand or realise who you are. And a small point like being dressed well, for example, you might go out and a girl might like you or might make a comment, and who knows, right? Or somebody might take you a bit more seriously when you come into work. All of these different small points, but very, very valid points to focus on. Now, I'm going to give a real world example. If you had actually put the work in, or if you choose to, and you were 25 with about £50,000 saved up, it's not that unrealistic, you had lots of friends, maybe a partner, maybe a car, maybe a business, or lots of career options, you would probably feel quite okay in life. Not always, but more likely than not. Your friends will help you to make the best decisions, you will have a partner if that's what you want, and that can bring confidence in itself, and you'll have money to capitalise on opportunities and take risks that you may not have otherwise been able to. So you see how it starts to open up itself. And this is where normal life meets self-improvement. Because not in the ambition of crushing anybody's dreams, but at this stage of life, if you're that young person that we spoke about, unhappy, living at home, unhappy with their situation as a whole, it's kind of unrealistic to be talking about a Lambo, a mansion, or anything else. We need to fix the basics first. Self-improvement on social media wants you to miss a crucial step in life. And that is the fact that if you're in your 20s, yes, build a business, make as much money as you can, but spending all of your time alone, which a lot of these people tell you to do, just grind on a business, is the last thing you need. If you don't have friends, sacrifice your sacrifice your pride and get a minimum wage job. You'll meet a lot of fellow young people, and you would be surprised, because I've done this in the past, right? I didn't need the money, but I got a minimum wage job. You'd be surprised how many interesting people you meet and how many extra friends you can make. It's true. Spend some money on experiences. Go traveling. Go meet people. Go to events. You need to do this, because the experience is actually where the learning is, not just the money. Now here's the thing related to that. If you make it in life via the social media view, you'll still be a loser. And this is a big thing, because I would say one of the biggest confidences I can have in this stage in life is knowing that I did it all when I was in a position which is significantly weaker than I am at now. I could get and talk to girls when I was broke. So now I've got a lot more confidence. A lot of these guys say, well, to attract girls you need a lot of money. Not true at all, right? But a lot of these guys don't know that because they're not doing it whilst they're broke. I knew that I could travel to scary places, maybe far-flung parts of the world where people traditionally view them as scary or dangerous, when I was younger and less confident, and I still made it okay. I knew that I could fight mentally and physically when I was weaker. And this is all a true power move, because now you're richer, stronger, smarter, all of these things. Now you know you can do it all with ease, because you did it when it was hard. Now it's actually on easy mode. You've got the same challenges, but you're built up to deal with them much better. If you were to get $5 million right now, a Lamborghini and a house, you'd still be a loser. Think about it. Girls wouldn't like you for you, because you've still got no interest in stories, you've still got the habits of a loser most likely, and you won't have that many friends. You need to get the disciplines first to actually build a winner, rather than just make it on a gamble. It's going to be more fulfilling that way. Because if you do it the other way, let's say you just gamble on the stock market or crypto and you make 10 million, it's great, you've got the money, but if you've still got the habits that a loser had and you've not learned the lessons about business and money, in your heart, you're going to know it's a lie. And so is everybody else. You won't have the same presence as a genuine successful person when you walk in, when you pull up, when you're out and about. It's important to disclose this. So you actually don't want to make it in the social media view. And what I'm saying here all ties into today's big topic, because an important part of growth under 30 years old is breaking through the struggle. You need to carry on when you don't feel like it. You need to be brave. You need to max out as many of the potential features in life as you can. And if you do all of this, you'll become a truly top 10% person by the time you're 30. But here's the thing, bravery, skill, experience is all as important, if not more, than any money or a job. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. When we talk about success, so many people have tied it just to this feature of money. And money is a great metric of success, it's binary, it's easy to understand, but it is not the only measure. If you've got 10 million and you're weak and unconfident and all these different things, you're not that well off, really. So success is all of these things combined. It's confidence, it's experience, it's skill, it's all of these different skills, right? So you don't want to be an old man filled with regrets. You want to take every chance that you can. We all have those experiences that we missed out on. You don't want that to be you. So if you're still lost and directionless, what I'm saying here is take the chances, because you don't know how it's going to affect you 10, 15 years down the line. This brings me on to my overarching point for today's video. There are things that you can do at this stage to mess your life up badly. Badly. Like I say, there are people who get into massive amounts of debt at this age. Probably not a good move. There are people who get into relationships and have children. It may be a good move, it may not. People who get into mortgages that they don't want, now they're trapped in a place for the next 40 years. Is that smart? I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't. Like I said at the midpoint, life is subjective. I can't tell you what a win is. But you got to ask the questions. Don't get yourself into trouble. Don't get yourself into massive binding decisions that will affect you for the rest of your life unless you're certain you want them. Because I know people who've done this, old people that I know, and they regret the majority of their life. And I know that's a very, very harsh thing to say, but a lot of the time it's true. They regret everything that they did. If you don't know what exactly you do want, focusing on the things that we mentioned will help you, right? If you just build your money, build your confidence, go out there and meet people, you won't be in a bad standing. And here are a few of the things that we spoke about, right? Get out there and get experience. Try challenging things that you do not like. This is important. Join a club that's hard. Join a physical activity. Get in shape. All of these different things that can help you massively. Build experiences and train your brain to do things that you don't want to do. Train your brain to experience genuine hardship, and you'll become a tougher person for it. Get your money up. That can't ever hurt. I'm going to give an example, right? Crypto, at the time of filming this video, has been crashing, right? Bitcoin's down like 20, 30 grand at the time of filming. How many of you guys still can't buy it, right? Even if Bitcoin went back to 16k, let's say, how many of you guys still couldn't buy it? But if you could, and if the stock market crashes, let's say, could that present a generational wealth opportunity? I'm not saying it will. This is not financial advice. Of course, not that type of video at all. But it's just one example of how having your money up in the right time can help you. Get out there and meet people. Join clubs, make friends, speak to people in the gym, speak to people your age. It can't hurt you at all. It cannot. And confidence is a very, very valuable skill. It's funny how confidence can attract money. sometimes by itself, right? It's a weird thing, but it's funny how confidence can attract money by itself. For example, there's two people trying to present something to you. One of them has a lot of confidence, they speak well, they dress well, they look good, and one of them kind of speaks like this, and they got a very good project, but I know who I'm going to probably invest in, because this person's taking the time to build themselves up, so they're probably going to have a half-decent project. The other person might be just as skilled, but the perception is so different. So, make confidence, build a network, it can't hurt. Try get a job if you want one, if you need one, even if you don't, right? A lot of you guys are broke, you need money, so get a job. A lot of you guys need to make friends. They're going to say, how can I make friends? Join clubs, join activities, but get a job too. Again, especially if you're under 30, in a lot of these minimum wage jobs, they're filled with students, they're filled with young people aged between 16 and about 25. There's probably going to be some people who you can get along with, maybe make friends with. One of the best ways to determine what you do like is to know what you don't like. And this ties into, obviously, the topic very well. If you don't know what you want in life because you're lost, you're directionless, you're struggling, try all of these challenges, right? If you work a minimum wage job and you hate it, you'll sure as hell know that you're going to do anything to at least get a decent job, maybe build a career or a business. You will learn a lot about investing once you get your money up, and you'll learn about how bad it was to be broke. These are just a few things, but they highlight the point very well. And I want to summarize this video by speaking about the fact that if you're young and directionless, the biggest thing you can do to help yourself is to stop trying to figure it all out now. The pressure on your head right now is already great enough. Don't worry about what's going to happen when you're 40, when you're 20. You're being weighed down by that insurmountable challenge, and the truth is you couldn't predict it even if you wanted to, right? Imagine if you were born in the 80s. By the time you were 40, what had you seen? I believe this is correct. Yeah, mobile phone, internet. You couldn't have predicted that when you were 20. Probably not. Not the mass adoption to the degree it happened. Now, if you were born in the 80s, unbelievable world. Unbelievable world. You don't know what technology is going to emerge. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know where you're going to live. Don't push it too much, because you can't predict it well even if you want to. Instead, if you're young, if you're lost, if you're sick of your position, build confidence, right? Build savings and build skills. Eventually, when the time comes, you will then be ready to capitalize upon the opportunity. Let's say you decide you want to change your life. I want to move to Frankfurt, right? Well, now I've got £30,000 saved up. I've got confidence. I've got this. Now you can go. Now, the next person who hasn't even figured out what they don't want at 30, how can they take that chance? They can't. You, though, you've got savings, you've got 5 years worth of work experience, you've got all of these different valuable skills which will help you in your future life. So, these are some basic metrics that you can do to help you. And here's the thing, you get a lot of lucky breaks in your life. If you're under 18, you may not have fully experienced this yet. I already have. Maybe it's because I've been pushing quite hard. Maybe I've just been lucky, right? You get a lot of lucky chances. But a lot of you guys will find yourself in 5 years being the guy or the person who has to pass his chance up because you didn't do the work today. I'll give you a few examples, right? Like we just spoke about money. If the stock market crashes, how many of you guys still couldn't buy? If the stock market went down, if Bitcoin went down by 70%, I'm not saying it is going to or it isn't, but let's just assume Bitcoin goes down by 70%. How many of you guys still couldn't buy one, right? One example. How many of the times have you been there where you've been at the right event, maybe at a university class or something, or a bar, and you see this girl and you think she's really, really good looking, but you know that you've not taken care of your appearance, so you're not even going to try and approach her. How many of you guys could have gotten that job if you just had the money to transport yourself there every day? But you didn't take the time earlier. You can't afford a car. You can't afford maybe 1 month's worth of travel before you get your initial first paycheck, and now you've got to miss out on a super good job. So many guys find themselves in this position. Don't let it be you, because this can happen easier than you think. And a lot of people get these lucky breaks in life. A lot of people will continue to get them. And in 5 years, they're still going to have to turn them down because they didn't work on their projects, they didn't work on themselves. If you're lost in life and you don't have a clue what you want, no one's judging you for that. No one's going to shame you for that. But what you at least need to do is try and build as many skills which can help you 20 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line as you can right now. So that's really it for today's video. Don't really have much more to say than that. It's been another one of these PowerPoint slide format videos. Again, not too sure if they're working out well. I'll keep checking on the figures. As long as they continue to perform fairly okay, I suppose I might as well continue to make them. If you watched it till the end, let me know with a comment. I know a lot of you guys enjoyed it last time, but please let me know. I use this data to decide what sort of videos I should make next. So that's really it for today. Again, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for spending the best part of an hour with me, and I hope I'll see you again in another video. See you soon. Goodbye.